third for air. But this is actually only the last part of the hadith. The first part of the hadith actually says that enough for the son of Adam is a few morsels to keep his back straight. That's the first part of the hadith. The first part of the hadith tells us that we should not eat anything more than what we need to keep us alive. That's enough for us. But if a circumstance happens, like it's Eid or you go to a wedding, then the maximum you are allowed to fill your stomach is a third for food, a third for air, a third for water or liquid, and a third for air. But the norm for the Muslim should be that we eat enough food to keep our back straight, to keep ourselves going. That's enough for us. This is the correct eating habits of the Muslim. And so this is how they were. They ate sparingly and as a race. But the fighting men, they ate even less. And because of this, throughout all of the Caucasus, the wars in the Caucasus, the Caucasian wars, they were better able to withstand the rigors of long marches in barren country, unfettered by cumbersome supply wagons which hampered the Russian columns on the move and included such unmanageable objects as 5-foot brass samovars to hold 50 gallons of tea, without which the humblest recruit would have mutinied. I wonder which one describes us these days. Wine was forbidden, of course, and meat was a rarity at their tables. They didn't eat a lot of meat. And if it was meat, it was only lamb, goat, or chicken. Their physique was generally maintained on a few cakes of rough ground millet and a little goat's cheese. During a campaign, these strong people were often seen to eat and appear well nourished by a few leaves or even rhododendron flowers. They trained themselves to run great distances swiftly at level speed without panting by carrying a bullet or a pebble in their mouths. Their lives were a mixture of personal austerity and heroic excess. So Shamil followed this pattern until at 20 he was famous for his feats. And this is the type of things that he could do. He could sever the butt of a rifle with one blow of his dagger. He was once seen to cut a Cossack horseman almost to the saddle in one single cut. He could clear a 7-foot wall at a leap. He could jump over in one leap a 7-foot wall. And Shamil's horsemanship was remarkable. The mountaineers' equestrian acrobatics had the same brilliance as the Arabs. Perhaps it was a legacy of their Arab conquerors in the 8th century. At any rate, the Caucasian festivals of horsemanship and daring were similar and equal to the Arabs, and even made the Cossacks, and the Cossacks are so famous for their horsemanship, but the Caucasians, the Chechens, the Dagestanis, and Imam Shamil, they made the Cossack riders look inept by comparison. Trick riding, circus stuff, all of it in daily use in their violent warfare. Shamil was speaking to the people in a language they understood best when he flung himself into the saddle at one bound, cleared the high gates of the Aul in another, and scorning the path, leapt a precipice, hanging head downwards under his horse's belly, swinging up the other side to stand in the saddle, and at the gallop shot a coin high in the air. So my brothers and sisters, my point that I'm trying to make from all of this is how the likes of Shamil, and it's not restricted to Shamil. If we look to the Sahaba, if we look to the likes of Khalid bin Walid, yes, they were people of Iman. They were people who had the highest Iman, the strongest faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we forget and we overlook that they were also people who were extremely physically tough. And this physical strength and physical toughness is a virtue that has been all but lost to the Muslims. And there is no avoiding the facts that one of the greatest reasons for physical strength and toughness is jihad. And it's at this juncture that I am forced by the reality of the state of confusion prevalent in these times to reiterate that we as Muslims do not seek confrontation or desire to initiate hostilities. Despite the many virtues of jihad, we should not imagine that this means that we seek physical conflict, or that in desperation we can resort to means like terrorism that is so far removed from the nobility of this religion. We want and should desire to live a peaceful life on coexistence, but we have the right. We have the right, and no one can take this away from us, to defend ourselves individually and collectively against attack and aggression. We also have the right and duty to prepare ourselves against such attacks. The Quran teaches this. International law affirms this. Jihad is not something that we should be embarrassed about or made to feel embarrassed about. It is a noble principle in this religion that no reasonable person could disagree with. The Ghazwat and the Jihad of Imam Shamil was without doubt just and fair and right, as is, and I want to make this point, it is a struggle that the Chechens and the people of the Caucasus have been making against the Russians for 300 years. And it goes back to one of the reasons why I have chosen this great Imam to illustrate a very important lost virtue. One of the reasons goes back to what I was saying, because the propaganda of the Russians, and it's been picked up by many people in the West, is that the Chechens today are a bunch of terrorists. They've just, they're a bunch of bandits. But the Chechens have been fighting the Russians for over 300 years, almost continuously. I mean, there have been breaks in it, but on and off, they have been fighting the Russians for more or less 300 years. It is not a new struggle. And Imam Shamil was one of the longest fighting combatants against the Russians, Imperial Russia then. 25 years he fought the Russians for. And in the striving of this great Muslim personality, there is an example for us all. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.